Hi everyone, it's Jennifer. Thanks for tuning in and subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate all of your support and want to just continue providing these videos for families that are still stuck during COVID and therapists as well. So this video today is a little bit different in that I'm going to do my video first, and then afterwards I'm going to have a long string of ideas to help desensitize. We're going to be talking about tactile discrimination, tactile sensitivity, tactile defensiveness, any way you want to say those words. Anyway, the tactile system is the largest sensory system. It covers our entire body, and it's the oldest sensory system. It's laid down first. So when we look at each sensory system, we look at each one of them on a continuum. So from one end of the continuum, let's use the pumpkin as an example, kids that are gagging when they even look at the pumpkin guts, to the other end of the continuum where they are craving the pumpkin guts and literally they are over their entire body within a hot second. So those are our avoiders to our seekers. Both of those are extremes, and we want to be somewhere in the middle where we can tolerate the tactile input. It's not driving us one way or the other, and we can move easily from one activity to the next throughout our day. So the difference between modifying and desensitizing, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So modifying is for the baby who doesn't like their face on the carpet, let's say, or maybe the blanket that they have is a little scratchy. We're going to give them a softer blanket. That's modifying. Desensitizing is actually doing a very thorough program to help them tolerate different textures or different positions or different toys or different foods. The list is a little bit endless when it comes to this, and I'll get into that in a hot second. But we're talking about a desensitization program. So it's got to be something that is done on a very regular basis and using a lot of different medium. So for example, if you only feed them macaroni and cheese because that's what they like, they're not going to get used to other textures or other foods or other colors. So I strongly encourage you to use a wide variety of medium when you are working with tactile defensive kids. So anyway, tactile defensiveness, what is it? It's an over response to tactile input. What we might perceive as nothing, the person next to me is going to perceive it as noxious or maybe even hurtful. It could harm, feel like pain to them. So we need to be super sensitive to that. Tactile input can detect light touch, it can detect firm touch, it can detect discrimination. This is that OTs use that word stereognosis, where we can reach into our purse or into our pocket and figure out what we have in our hand without using our vision. It helps determine temperature. It helps determine pain. It helps determine pressure. Are we holding firmly? Are we holding lightly? So it's important to know that sometimes kids that have tactile defensiveness, their behavior can be misunderstood as bad behavior. So for example, if they are lashing out because they don't want to be touched, they're anticipating that someone's going to bump into them, so they might um, push them before they get pushed themselves. Or sometimes I've heard people in the community or parent or whatever that, oh, he's such a whiner. I barely touched him. Well, that might be true that you barely touched him and he might act like he's anxious or crying or whining, but it could be perceived as pain. So these kids could be bothered by certain textures of fabrics, tags on their shirts, seams on their socks. Things just don't feel right to them. These are the kids that are wearing the wrong clothes for the wrong season because they don't like the feel of the sleeves on their arms or the pants on their legs. So in the heat of summer or in the cold of winter, they're wearing short sleeves and would prefer to wear shorts. These might be the babies that do not like laying on their belly because they don't like the feel of the carpet on their hands or on their face. These kids might not like to walk on carpet or on grass or at the beach. They don't like their hands messy when they're eating. When you have those little 6-month-olds that are starting to eat and they do not want to get their hands messy, or if you have the preschooler who's doing the gluing activity and does not want to touch that glue, so they ask for the glue stick. These kids may struggle with baths, their face being washed, soap, hair brushing, nails being clipped, their teeth being brushed, their hair being cut. So these are all signs of tactile defensiveness. I'm sure that you've seen these kids as well. They might be oversensitive to if their diaper is barely wet, or just the change of having the diaper changed, so that going from something on them to something off them and something back on them, and the texture of it might be just a little bit different. They could be super sensitive to that. They may be a picky eater, and it could be related to not tolerating the touch on their hands as well as the touch in their mouth, so that their mouth can be oversensitive as well. We prepare our mouth with for food by touching it. So if I blindfolded you and gave you raw broccoli versus cooked broccoli, your mouth would be prepared for how to eat that broccoli. You would know if it would be chewier or softer. So we get a lot of information about temperature, about texture through our hands. We have 1,000 sensory receptors in a square inch of our hand, which is huge. That's that whole reaching into your pocket and knowing what you found. So we have the most sensory receptors on our fingertips and on our lips. So that whole approach for feeding, where we touch it to our lips, that gives us a lot of information, and it's a great idea and a great principle. So in general, I just want to caution you that these activities that I'm going to provide in the next part of this video are very child-centered, that the child is in control, that you cannot push, you cannot force, that if we push them forward, like if we do the force feeding kind of thing, we're going to send them 10 steps back. So don't do that. Be patient, be kind, be empathetic, model what you want your child to do, but keep it child directed, and go from minimal to a lot. So going from a small rice bin to adding more rice, to adding more things into the rice. So just be aware, be patient, be kind, and know that your child is learning. And what we're really doing is changing how the central nervous system interprets the sensory information. So that's the crux of the whole treatment. And I hope that you find the rest of this video um, informative and helpful, and that new ideas. So you want to start as early as possible. If you're detecting signs as a baby, go for it, and start finding those things that we can start desensitizing with now. Talk to your OT, because she will help guide, or he will help guide you through this process and help you understand that whole neurological system. There are other programs out there, and the Wilbarger protocol is a typical one, but I'm not going to mention that. I'm not going to give a slide on this in this video, because I really think that I feel very strongly that it needs to be guided by an OT. So enjoy the video. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for subscribing, tuning in, and all of your positive feedback. I appreciate it.